environmental concerns, real property and tax services, and the environmental concerns meeting to order. Supervisor Brock is not available to be here, so I will be chairing the meeting today. I have
the last 6 months anyway.
Could I please have a motion to approve the minutes of our prior committee meeting? Supervisor Merlino, seconded by Supervisor McDevitt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we do have some guests here this morning, but I'm going to run through, Lexi, your agenda, because I don't think it'll be too long.
Yeah, it'll be quick. First, though, I just wanted to mention to you that I included with your stuff in your sheets just an email that I had gotten from Cornell Cooperative Extension on the Willie, there you go, workshop that they're having. So I thought just in case anybody would be interested in it, I'd pass it on to you all. So, okay. The first request is for a resolution to transfer funds from A893, which is the Reserve Environmental Testing Fund, to my contracts account for $15,000, and that is to pay our portion of the cleanup on the DEC, the project that DEC is working on at the Mosher's Garage. And the tank removal went great. We were there for the tank removal, and then we did go back on another day, and they decided to go over where there was some stuff found when Clark Patterson Lee went in, and it's not going as great as the tank removal. The tank removal, there was no issues whatsoever. They came out, nothing underneath. That was pretty much perfect. But when it got to the contamination in the soil, they had to keep chasing the dirt, which was the dirty dirt, and so they have a large hole. However, our expense on this is only going to be the $15,000 because we had gone into the contract with DEC prior to this. So we'll be, I'm sure, at that $15,000 limit. DEC, however, is going to be much larger. So,
Thank you. Second.
I have a question.
Supervisor Simpson, and second by Supervisor Molino. Yes.
Are they still digging
They are
now?
still there. I'm not sure if there's still digging going on. I know what they were, they had big piles of dirt, that they,
Alright.
the dirty
They
dirt,
don't
they
take
were
it away.
coming in and hauling that away. They have not moved it all yet, but they are working on hauling that out, and then they'll be bringing the other dirt in to
Yeah, they'll
fill.
fill
But
it
they
in.
had to, they said where the biggest hole was, that they had breached clean soil. So they were okay there, but I'm not sure if behind, because they did do some digging behind as well. This was more to the, what is that, northwesterly corner of the property, where they were digging such a large hole, but, so, yes.
Just for information purposes, I just checked this morning, we have about 230,000 environmental testing funds.
That's good.
Yes.
I drove by twice and saw you two out there on Route 8
Did you?
in the snow.
Yeah, we were out there in the snow.
You notice I didn't stop.
I was gonna say.
Thanks for the coffee.
I had boots
There's no
and
place
hats
to buy
and
coffee
gloves,
there.
and I had lots of warm clothes on that day. It was snowing and pretty chilly.
Roll call
So,
for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
okay, next is to approve the list of the court-ordered refunds. So, they were all court-ordered. I'm sorry?
I got it.
Oh. So, a lot of, actually, I think they looked like they were all in Warrensburg for the Echo Lake camp. Yep, there was a settlement. So,
Lawrenceburg should pay all
in Warrensburg. Well, the county had taxes too, so.
Mary, do you have anything to add on this? Okay. Can I have a motion? Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor McDevitt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And that is all that I have, so that it's down at the bottom is the environmental concerns.
Okay.
And Claudia, do you want to?
Yes, I'll carry it away from here. We have a couple of guests. Luis Scava is here. Thank you. You can sit at the table. We also have Robin Reynolds here. I just wanted to introduce you quickly. Do you want to introduce your guests too, yourself and your guests?
So I'm here from the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. We work on the Clean Energy Communities Program, which in a while the communities in Warren County are starting to participate in the program, so it's very exciting. My colleague Bill Fauci is also here. We work together in the program down in our offices, so happy to be here and looking forward to this presentation and continue assisting everyone county with clean energy-focused projects.
Robin has been a great help in the city, helping to get our clean energy communities certification. Okay, Louise, it's all yours.
All right.
Very cool.
This here. So, and if you don't mind, I'll stand. I've been sitting for days driving Thanksgiving. So good morning. I'm Louise Gava. I work for MEGA, the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance. And we are a not-for-profit local development corporation that started in the late 90s. And our main goal at that point was to bring together municipal governments, counties, cities, towns, and villages, and use the power of aggregation to lower your purchase of electricity and natural gas costs. And then over time, as the state has changed and added other initiatives, we've added things like hydro and solar procurement into our mix, as well as demand response programs. And now, with some new regulatory changes, we're able to offer some of the same price reduction and stability options that we have for municipal governments to residents. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, community choice aggregation. But just to make sure we all start on the same page, because electricity is complicated even though it seems simple, just a basic 101 concept here. When you purchase electricity, you purchase two main things. And so this is the sample National Grid bill. They're much more complicated than this. But you pay for two things, right? You pay for delivery. It's a large chunk, usually around 50% of your cost. And that's paying for the wires and the substations and maintenance when you do outages. And then you pay for this other piece, which is supply. And that's the actual physical commodity, the electron. And so since the 90s, New York has allowed municipalities, residents, anyone in the state to purchase those two things separately. So you don't have to buy the actual electron, the physical commodity, right, from National Grid. And many people and many municipalities choose not to. And so that's what MEGA's been doing for years, is looking at how can we find a better supplier than the utilities. And we generally refer to those as energy services companies. And so that's what we're looking at here with community choice aggregation as well. So a little bit of history. New York, since 2014, has been in this process called Reforming the Energy Vision. The Clean Energy Community Programs and other programs in the state are coming out of this, which is an opportunity to really rethink the electric infrastructure in New York, not just how it's produced, how we use it, consumer education, how we move it around the state, what the sources of it are. All of that's sort of on the table with a few key goals: resiliency, reliability, and affordability. And I would say clean energy is in there as well. One of the first things I think in New York's agenda is empowering, engaging the consumer, because all of these things are much easier when the people who are voting on them or who are using them have a higher level of understanding. And community choice aggregation, one of the first programs and opportunities coming out of REV, does just that. So this has been around in New York since April of 2016. It's fairly new. What is it? Community choice aggregation gives municipalities the opportunity to aggregate the residential customers and small commercial customers within your jurisdiction. So instead of just doing a bulk purchase for all the municipal buildings, this would be looking at all the residents and small businesses within your municipal boundaries. Now, it's not just one municipality, right? The way that this works and the way that MEGA works is by combining a bunch of municipalities. So you put a couple cities and villages and towns together, soon you have a very large buying group, and that's very effective in providing value to the individual residents. Counties, like yourselves, because you're a supervisory county, are very important. You can play a very nice facilitating role because you're all sitting at the table, different than, say, a legislative county where they can't actually do any authorization. Because you all represent municipalities with the power to authorize this, supervisory counties are very important in this process. So this gives you a map that shows you sort of the extent of who can work together. So there are rules. It's not just like anyone in New York can work with anyone and it makes sense. So the two rules are thus. One, you really need to be with the same utility. And two, you really need to be in the same sort of New York State Independent System Operator load zone. All that means is how we wholesale power in New York. So in this map, it's the blue line. That's the wholesale power line. You're in F. I live here too. And then the background, the green background, is National Grid. So there's really upwards of 9 counties and many, many residents that can be working together to drive down the cost of electricity and provide some other valuable opportunities for residents. Okay, why would we do this? First and foremost, reduce electric costs, the per kWh cost. We all understand the idea of bulk purchasing. You buy a larger unit of something, each individual unit costs less. So that's key. The competitive marketplace that we set up for residents, which they historically have not had, that also drives price down, right? If you get a phone call or something in the mail, that's not a competitive advantage set up. If we have 40,000 households and we're going out and setting up a bid, those suppliers that are bidding know that they're in a competitive environment. When they call you, they hope they're the only one calling you and you're just going to say yes. So that also drives the price down. The other thing is this is about getting a stable price. The utilities can't offer the same price per kWh every month. Other suppliers can. In talking with residents as we moved around the state, for a lot of folks that's very compelling. And that is why some people have switched from their utility. The other piece, and this is big in the news fairly regularly, is consumer protection. So there's a lot of bad players out in the marketplace. There's a lot of bad energy service companies. They have been using less than scrupulous practices, and oftentimes residents either get in with a good deal and then they don't pay attention, the contract ends and it goes up, or it's not meant to be a good deal from the beginning and they get tricked, whatever. All these things happen. There's a lot of lawsuits going on in New York State right now to try to get these folks out of the market. CCA can really help address that. One, we're educating consumers. Two, we're finding people that have been pulled into those bad deals and helping them get out. And three, we're setting them up with a good deal because we're reviewing the contracts. This is what we do for a long time, for 17 years. And the third thing, and that's really exciting to some communities and less so to others, but it's definitely an opportunity, is these same principles and the local decision-making power can be used and turned to focus on renewables. There's a lot of ways that can happen, but it's definitely an entry point for those types of conversations and decisions. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but what I do want to tell you from this slide is a few things. One, New York State is watching this closely. The Public Service Commission has to approve each municipality's participation in this program. MEGA has set up a streamlined process, and we have 12 municipalities that have gone through that process, and we'll have around 30 by the end of the year. So we figured out a way to make it simpler for municipal governments and the state for their approval. But this isn't something where we're just flying by the seat of our pants and can do whatever we want. Which also means the utilities are paying close attention and approving what's going on. The perhaps most important thing about CCA, and part of why it works so effectively, is it's structured as an opt-out program. So what that means is right now National Grid is your default supplier, and this seeks to find an alternative default supplier. So if we go out to bid and we say supplier XYZ it provides the greatest value, then they become the default. They replace National Grid. So it's an opt-out structure, which means that everyone who is not with a supplier, so everyone who's with National Grid for their electric supply, gets moved to this new supplier. If they choose not to, if they don't want to, they want to stay with National Grid, they're welcome to return to the utility or stay with the utility. But otherwise, the idea is we're looking for the best deal, and if we can find one better than National Grid, then why shouldn't we offer it to everyone? The other piece that's really critical is we have a minimum education. I spend a lot of time in the communities I work with spending my evenings talking with residents, looking at their bills, explaining the program, helping them make decisions on what to do. Often those conversations talk about solar and all kinds of things, but in general, we're in your communities if we decide to do this program. This is inside your little trifold. These are the steps. There are a lot of them. The way MEGA works is we start this process with a handshake agreement. It outlines what our role is in this process. It outlines any municipality municipality supportive role, which is fairly minimal. Mega works at risk. There's no money exchanged in this process. Just like we work for the municipality, we get paid on the back end with a small fee that gets added into the price per kilowatt hour. So once that handshake agreement is signed, and in your region here, the only one that is signed at this point is the City of Saratoga Springs. We move into step 2, which is educating the public. So this is where there's information in the papers, we might be on the radio. I'm definitely in your community doing one-on-one sessions, visiting with seniors, whatever it needs to look like in your community. And then that's all moving towards a local law, passage of a local law. And that is needed, that signifies to National Grid that we're not tricking you into doing something. That's a very formal way of saying, yes, we would like to do this. That the data that come out of that process, out of the local law and the other paperwork we have to send to the state, allow us to go out and do a competitive bid, so to actually set up that competitive environment, then to get the information, select the best, lowest bidder, the one with the best customer record, which is in all of them at the moment, and then citizens get the opportunity to participate in the process. So one thing that's really important for you all to know is that from step 1 through step 5, the municipality can change its mind at any time. So a lot of our municipalities said, well, if we can't know the price until step 4 when you go out to bid, because it's not like we're just talking about one municipality. When we sign, we might not know that there's 15 other municipalities that are going to be participating. So a lot of our municipalities have said, well, this is an exploration, and we'll make our decision at step 5 once we know what the price is and what the other opportunities are that can be provided. How much renewables, what does that look like, etc. So I don't need to tell you about that. The only thing I do want to tell you, I just want to focus in a little bit on the renewable piece. I don't know how interesting that is or is not to folks in this room. But the way that CCA works is it does have an opportunity to integrate distributed energy resources. Generally, those fall into 3 categories: energy efficiency projects, demand response projects, so reducing your actual usage, and many of you probably already have these types of programs, and then distributed generation, which would be a physical addition of a renewable energy project. It could be a solar, it could be calling on a local hydro project, it could be some kind of combination, even including some kind of gas turbine with, like you might put in a microgrid project. And when you think about CCA, I think some of my take-homes are that CCA is not quick. It is not a and we're done type of project, but it is still worth doing. A lot of our communities are very excited. I think the time that it takes for some of them has been impressive because you're bringing everyone together. So the early adopters do have to recognize that we want to get to a certain mass because that provides some of the value, so we have to be patient. Though we do draw a line in the sand at some point. And then, the other thing is this is an amazing way for the municipality and the community to engage in consumer education. I've had a lot of municipal officials in the southern tier where I'm working right now say, even if we don't go forward, this is great because we've helped a ton of my residents understand their electricity and for a lot of them get out of those bad deals. So that's just generally a good thing. It's no cost to you that we're coming in and doing that education. And then the other piece is this is a very big opportunity and stepping stone increasingly in the future for these renewable energy opportunities. So with that, I know I talked a lot, but I know there are often questions, so I will stop and see if there are any questions.
Question I don't have, but,
Yeah.
we sit around here for years and years and years, listen to all these deals.
Yep. Yep.
You take National Grid.
Yep.
Okay, when the state allows them,
Deregulation.
other people to
Yep.
bring in what they did, they put a surcharge on your line.
Uh-huh.
Okay, which, to me, right now with this going on, the
Yep.
smart thing for them to do is people that buy electric from them, they should eliminate that service charge. Because in my town, I have 6 places
Yep.
that only use 6 months a year. We shut them down for 6 months a year.
Right.
And I get the bills every month that says usage 0, delivery charge $32.
Yes. So that
I've
can't
been
go
fighting
away.
that for years, but you can't
Yes.
get rid of it.
No, they won't let you get rid of that way.
But if National Grid was smart,
Uh-huh.
and say, okay, people that buy electric from us will get
We
rid
could
of
get-
the surcharge,
Yep.
then these deals
Wouldn't go through. Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, I can't speak to that specifically. I can speak to it's really hard to get apples to apples. because there's all kinds of things that happen. This person's allowed to charge you for this person's not allowed to charge you for that. For example, if you just look at, I know it's a little small, but if you look at the electric supply charge, you'll see the supply charge, right, which is the actual kWh, price per kWh, but then you see these merchant function charges. So those are the costs, for example, of National Grid procuring your electricity. Those go away. Then the taxes, right now you pay taxes, depending on what energy services company you have, they may or may not charge you tax, but National Grid will definitely charge you tax. And anyway, so it gets very complicated very quickly. The thing about this program is it's in that broader Reforming the Energy Vision, and that whole process is about changing how the utilities, once again, changing how the utilities make their revenue, right? So we've done that multiple times over the past decade, and the utilities are again being told they need to change. And they're all in the process. They have these things called demonstration projects, and they're all showing, our closest one I guess would be the one in Clifton Park, and they're all sort of showing how these new programs might work and how it would drive revenues for them. And so I can't answer your specific question. I was a solar homeowner before I moved here, and I can tell you I had that same thing. I call it the pleasure of doing business with a charge. But mine was $17 a month because I was not commercial.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, this is one of the big, small problems, I won't call it big, that I have in my town, with seniors especially.
And which is your town?
Lake Luzerne.
Okay, Lake Luzerne.
Seniors call.
Mhm.
The bills are going up. They
Mhm.
just go into these private sector, buying electricity from Oklahoma.
Yep.
And, the first year looked all right.
And then it goes up.
It goes up.
Exactly.
And, what do they do? It's a problem. And it's, how do you solve the problem? Like National Grid puts out this big thing for the last year, buy these new light bulbs, save energy.
Yep.
So maybe in my small business, I went out and spent $1,000 on all those night things. They work great and they're brighter. And then all of a sudden now they're down looking for a hike in their electricity. So you save $3 a month, but now they want to hike at $8 a month. So where do we stop?
Yeah. Well, and it's an evolving marketplace, and the piece that you're talking about, the $8 hike, is on the delivery charge. And so it's about every 3 years they have a rate case, and they have to go to the Public Service Commission, and they have to say, this is why it costs us more to run our business. And so the Public Service Commission is supposed to work in our interest and as consumers and as users of the electricity and find some middle ground there. And I will say that I don't know about the rate case. I do know that National Grid's rate case has caused mass pandemonium, and that a number of large cities have been writing very angry letters and saying, you cannot raise my, by this much, because what's the value you're giving me? But this is part of what is causing the issue, and part of why we're having the broader conversation, of which CPA is just the very beginning of, because the reason it keeps going up is that the infrastructure is aging. And the infrastructure is, I forget, the last statistic I heard, I believe, is $30 trillion over the next 10 years across New York State. We cannot afford that as ratepayers, so we have to come up with solutions where we localize our generation. So we might put in some new generation here so we don't have to worry as much about upgrading these wires, right, because you have it local. Or we're going to reduce the total usage so we don't have to turn that power plant on over there because our peak usage in the community is lower. So these are all the things that New York is trying to do to reduce that $30 trillion number. But it's complicated and actually involves all of us working together. So I don't pretend to understand it, but I know that there are a lot of really smart people trying to address a lot of the issues. But you have to remember, these are regulated monopolies and they move there.
Supervisor Simpson, did you have a question?
No.
Supervisor Stroud?
Yes. Louise, when you came to Queensbury, you also gave a very good presentation.
Thank you.
It was kind of new.
It was very new. You were the very first presentation that Mega did.
Yeah.
All that time ago.
We didn't want to be the first.
You did not. Saratoga did, though. They were like, don't let anyone else go first.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea. The idea, basically, from what I understand, and just so everyone else seems to understand, is that you will go out and get requests for proposals for a given area or a given region or a given municipality, whatever the case might be, and then you'll make an offer. Let's say the average person's paying 8 cents a kilowatt hour. You might come back with something that says, all right, well, we can do 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour, guaranteed over
X
term, 3-year period or whatever. And so the chances are that going through CCA is going to offer the average resident a better price than they're probably getting now, and something more reliable.
Correct.
other words, it's not going to jump
Correct.
next year and so forth, because you're dealing with a reliable agency.
Correct.
And the fee that you take off the top,
Mhm.
it isn't added on, it's already
That's
included
right.
in the agreed amount
That's
of
right.
kilowatt hour.
Right.
So, the whole concept's a good concept. Now,
Yes.
Saratoga went with it?
The city of Saratoga Springs, yes.
Are you allowed to say how much they saved there?
No, they haven't done it yet. They're waiting for the rest of you to come into the aggregation.
They're waiting.
They said, we would like to go first, and we would like to be the carrot and say, we're 12,000 households, and we'd like to, have some friends join us so that we can go out and do this, and, larger pool to reduce the price.
So that's the town of Saratoga?
The city of Saratoga Springs.
City of Saratoga Springs. The town of Saratoga?
I have not asked them. I have not, where
Yeah.
there's only so much time in a day, so I haven't been to everyone yet.
So Louise, how many households do you need in order
So
to make it?
our goal for this region, again, let me show you the map of this region, is actually not very big for the size of the region. Our estimate is that to really drive the price, 40,000 is all we need. That's really not a lot of municipalities, depending on who participates, right? Yes. 40,000 households. Yeah, not
Between
40,000.
Queensbury and Glen Falls, we're about, I don't know how many households. Do you know how many households you are?
Well, between the two of us, we're about 45,000 people. So we're about two-thirds of the county, just in Glen Falls and Queensbury.
Yeah, I think you're 13,000,
13
you're
or
9,000
14,000, yeah.
households, I believe. Yeah, and it's a little, I'm very conservative when I do the estimates because I don't know, like I census data, right? What do we got there? But then there's some percentage of people who are already with energy services companies. They get to stay with the energy services companies. I'm not going to, this is a new default. This is meant to, provide an option for someone who hasn't made an option. A lot of people are annoyed with that because they would like the opportunity to participate. Well, they can. They just have to be a little more proactive. We can't just take their old deal, even if it was bad, and take it away from them. So that's around 20% of the population of each municipality, but I won't know exactly until we go to bid, until we get the data from the utilities. The other thing I should say is that the state just made a quick little change here because low-income folks in the low and moderate income folks and what they call assistance program participants, so those who are participating in HEAP programs through National Grid, they are required by the utility they are required for us through our program to be the utility price. Like we have to do that. There can be no chance. If something happened, the energy services company has to write them a check and refund. So that's really important new change too. So there's no chance, even if the market did something crazy, dropped, it couldn't drop that much because it would be negative. That's what I'm telling everyone right now. Right now, your chance of it going up is higher than your chance of it going down. But if something crazy happened and electricity became free, the electric service company has to pay them, the low-income folks, for protection for that.
What happens at the end of, say,
Sure.
the period, the 3 or 3.5
Yeah.
years or whatever?
Yeah.
What happens at that
Yep.
point?
And so let me just say too that period of time that they're in the contract could be 18 months, it could be 3 years. Just like for any of you who have worked with Mega before, you get multiple terms. And one of the things you have to say is, okay, if we go for an extra year, it's 0.0001 more. Is it worth it? And often the answer is yes, because that's protecting you from the price spikes over a longer period of time. But that's what we do the market analysis and decide what the best recommendation is, knowing that no one has a crystal ball. So 18 months to 3 years, 120 days before the contract is up, we have to go back to all those municipalities and we have to say, okay, here's the analysis. Here's how much was saved per resident. Here's how many people participated. Here's whatever, how much green energy. Here's the complaints that we had, da-da-da-da-da. Would you like to participate in another bid? Do we want the bid to look the same? Do we want it to look different? We also have to be annually giving a report, both to the municipalities individually and to the state. Because the new program is only happening in Westchester County. And it's been there for enough time for us to have a report that, oh yeah, it's working. This works in New York. But we are being watched and learning from this process because it's still new and innovative.
Supervisor Shaw?
This isn't new. There's other states
Correct.
that have been involved in this
Correct.
for a long time.
Yeah, I did not say that, but New York is the 7th state, and this started in the 90s in Massachusetts, and that aggregation is going strong. It's called the Cape Light Compact. It's very famous, and it involves a huge amount of, the buying the light bulbs and the, helping people drop that price over the long term. And that's ultimately what New York is going towards, some of those more innovative opportunities, community by community.
Lexi?
Is there a penalty at all, though, in between,
Or-
like if you decide, all right, say you had the initial contract for 3 years, at the end of that, you decide, okay, we're not 100%,
Yes.
we're thinking about stepping away from it. Is there a penalty at that point?
No, so what happens is, at the end of the term, if we don't decide to continue, then everyone returns to National Grid. And they have to go back to whatever's happening. Whatever the price is and whatever the fluctuation is, that's what they get. National Grid has to take them back, that's a requirement. And then, it could happen again. Once you put the local law on your books, whether you use it or not, it's there. So you can always pick it up again. A lot of you have local laws on your books for various things that you're not using all the time. There are a lot of paper municipal electrics, for example. I see them all the time. People think they can pull them out, we can just use them, and it fits within the regulatory environment. So this right now will provide an opportunity. Yes,
Supervisor.
There was one caption that you had in your presentation that talked about opting in.
Oh, yes.
Large customers.
Yes.
As decided by the municipalities.
Yes.
I'm not sure I understood that.
Yeah, so right now the state has structured the program, and mostly the utilities have helped this structure, that it's only really the residential customers, and your really, really small commercial customers. So I don't know the buildings that you were talking about, if they would even count, it would depend. They have to be non-demand, okay, so they're very small. The rationale for this is that it ends up being a subsidization. The small customers end up subsidizing the large customers if you bring in demand customers. So if you were to mix the county in a municipal building, the demand is the most expensive part of your bill, that peak charge that you have to pay for your maximum usage. So if you mix that with residents, the residents aren't necessarily getting the best benefit. Now, when you start adding in other demand response programs, and if you're adding in storage or you're doing some of these other things, having large customers benefits the residents in the municipality. So it all depends on the shape of the program. Or some municipalities may say, you know what, those mid-sized businesses, we really want to give them the boost, and it benefits all of us. So we're going to have the residents subsidize the small-ish businesses in our community. Yes.
Now, you mean by demand, you're talking about a large customer, and you're looking at setting their rate based on their peak usage? Demand plays into the equation, and we have to know that in advance. We need to know the total kilowatt hours. We also need to know the total peak usage within the municipality. But there will still get a per kWh price that's the same as the residents. But that price, if we include those folks per kWh, may be higher than if we didn't include them. And so we can help make that assessment as we go along. Most municipalities at this point have said, we just want to do the first time, we just want to do residents, and we want to see what can happen.
Supervisor Simpson? Sorry.
Knowing that none of us have crystal balls, we've made a lot of decisions over the years based on crystal balls and assumptions. I mean, what happens, you get into this program and you're committed for, say, 3 years, and at the end, National Grid was the cheapest way to go because the price dropped, the economy changed, nobody could predict it.
Right. So, great point and good question, and this may or may not happen with our municipalities all the time. And a classic example, and I'll be 100% transparent, in 2008, you all remember prices were up, right? They started to fall, and we had a number of municipalities, including 2 of our 35 counties that Mega serves, that they were up, their contract was up, and they wanted to get into another electric contract. And so the price started coming down, and they said, okay, we're going to lock in before it goes up again. And what happened was the price kept going down. So that can happen. And no one can know. So sometimes it makes better sense to float, sometimes it makes better sense to be a variable rate. However, in this case, and here this graph shows you, this is 2014 data. So this shows you what a CCA is meant to do. The blue line is the utility. 2014, that big spike is the January spike. The last time we had one of those was the double or tripling. And CCA is meant to be a fixed line. Now, of course there are months where the utility is going to be less. That's always going to happen. And the goal is over the end to have it be cheaper. We have to, again, we will be doing it monthly, but we have to annually say, this is how they're tracking. Residents can leave the program without a fee. So if they, unlike the other contracts they sign, although there are some that are monthly, most of them it's like $100 or some I just saw were $200 to get out of a contract, they can leave. So if that graph were flipped upside down, if I was showing you like a worst case scenario, which it actually couldn't be because if I put numbers on the graph, that blue spike would be negative, they would all leave the program. And that would mean that CCA wouldn't be working in New York, right? But that can happen. It could happen.
Well, I mean, with residents, I mean, how many people
Are paying attention.
would know?
They're not. They're not.
Until it goes up, then they say, geez, I spent what I'm going to do now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I just leery of
Sure.
at the end.
Sure.
Was it a good idea or was it a
Right.
bad idea?
Right. And it is, I mean, this is the risk the 20% of your residents are taking now. The problem is, and I don't mean to say this is a problem, but, they're making the decision often, it's a spot decision. They're getting one phone call, they're not doing an analysis, and again, when the contract ends or partway through, something is happening and they're getting, the price is definitely going up and they don't notice. A lot of them think that the price of electricity is just high. And when we look at the bill, we're saying, no, actually, here's your name. It's actually, there's been a lot of embarrassing moments for people, and I tell them not to be embarrassed when they're sitting next. We have these education sessions. They bring their bills. They're sitting next to their neighbor, and they're comparing bills. And they're like, why is this your number and this is my number? And then, we have the conversation, and they're like, how does this happen? I'm like, it happens to, it's okay. It can happen to anyone. It does. It's happened to board members like yourselves in a lot of communities, and that's why they want to do CCA. Because they said, this shouldn't have happened to me, this is a protection tool. But yes, you're right, none of us have a crystal ball, anything could happen. However, right now, the price is so low that, again, even if at the end of the day it was worse, it would be a little bit worse, and they had the stability. And then our goal over the next few months, we're continuing to develop we're shaping the regulatory environment in New York, and we're making it possible for some of these other products to come in. So the renewable energy, the energy efficiency, there's still a lot of things that have to be moved around to make that work, especially with the utilities trying to get their nickel out of everything. So that's what we're doing right now. So that will inherently add value. Because what you can imagine, if you've heard of any of these community solar projects, for example, a lot of them are offering a guaranteed discount below the utility, right? If you bring them into a CCA and you guarantee that line, then that starts to make sure that line stays below the utility. So there are a lot of innovative contract structures that CCA is hoping to ultimately use, but we're not quite there yet. Almost. Yes, sir.
I want to take a question from Mr. Wild, please.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One about the macroeconomics and utility industry.
Sure.
First off, the graph you show here, you don't have an average line
Sure.
for the utilities. So will you
Oh.
expect that delta to be
Sure.
over, let's say, a year?
Sure.
How much do you think?
Over a year?
Customer would
Yeah.
save a year?
It's a couple percent. It's not as huge. It's not as
So
huge.
we'll put it in dollar amount, right, for an average size home or something like that.
$100?
You think it'll be that much?
It could be.
Okay. So now that's the macroeconomics piece.
Mm-hmm.
Utilities are regulated.
Yes.
But they're also monopolies, and they have, if I'm not mistaken, some kind of guaranteed return.
Vegas.
So what happens from a macroeconomic standpoint when you
Mhm.
pull the rug out from underneath the grid
Yep.
and say you're not going to be supplying this anymore, you lose this revenue. And now, all right,
Mhm.
they're guaranteed return to supply chunks. So in actuality, we're not really going to save any money. We may save money in the energy,
Uh-huh.
but overall the bills are going to be basically the same after two years after that.
So I've heard that postulated before. However, the utility does not make money on the supply. They are not allowed to. So all of their revenue is coming out of the delivery. Okay, and so the delivery piece is what is absolutely regulated. That's the rate case I was talking about before, where they have to go and justify everything, and if it's supply and demand, to explain why. The part that we're talking about changing, the only thing that happens is they're not purchasing the electricity, so they can't charge you for it. They also can't tax you for it because they're not charging you for it. So in theory, that piece, I mean, the only thing I think you could say is that, oh, does that put people people in the utility out of jobs because they're not out there purchasing the electricity. CCA in the beginning is very small compared to their total usage, so I think that in the beginning that's not a concern. And again, the whole marketplace is moving.
So this, I understand where you're going with that, maybe I'm jumping.
Yep, no, that's fine.
Does National Grid have any generation capacity?
They're not allowed to since the regulation. They have, so this is one of the things that makes this graph possible, or why this graph happens. So since the 90s, National Grid, all the utilities had to sell off all of their generation units. They now have to go out and in real time, they buy the electricity right as you need it, which is why we have these crazy spikes that happen, because we get constrained, coal, natural gas gets used, and need for electricity, okay? The energy services companies, one, they own generation, and two, they are able to do various hedging strategies, which the utilities don't do in the same way. So they're not in the same playing field exactly, and that's why you can end up with a graph like this.
Supervisor Dickinson?
Louise,
Yes.
Lake George is a very small town. We have a very small population, about 1,000 homes. We have a lot of large hotels.
Yep.
Are these mega users, 100-unit hotels?
Yeah, so they wouldn't be automatically included. We could have a conversation about what does that look like for them to participate. But a lot of municipalities, what we've said is if a couple of them want to participate, said, why don't you just get a price now for mega and see if it benefits you? Like you can join the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance even if you're not a municipal entity, and you can benefit from those 35 counties and 240 other village, cities, and towns. Or you can go out into the marketplace and you can try to get another supplier on your own. I would be amazed if a lot of them, especially the more corporate ones, don't already have a deal. And that's why sort of what's left in the municipalities in terms of support is for the residents, because they haven't had an opportunity and someone to hold their hand and do this process. And that's why those bad practices have zoomed right in on residents, because they're easier to take advantage of, just because we're all really busy and, they target low income, elderly populations, and English as a second language, and we see it across New York and beyond. So, but the hotel, I mean, it is a possible conversation. They have a kind of different load, and so we have to be careful. Lesson learned from Chicago is if you take profiles that look really different and you smush them together, it doesn't necessarily work. But that doesn't mean we can't do creative things. So we case by case basis.
Louise, you've definitely given all of us something to chew on, and I really hope that the town supervisors here will take this back to your boards and consider it. I thank you very much for coming and presenting to us here. I met Louise at a NISAC event, and I was really intrigued and wanted to bring this back here, so I'm glad that she was able to come.
Yes, thank you. And my contact information is right inside this little trifold, and you are welcome to call me at any time with any questions. Or I would love to come talk to you and your board and have the same conversation or more detailed conversation.
Okay, that's...
Thank you all.
Stay
Stay warm.
So guys, there's one more thing on our environmental concerns agenda. It's a discussion of plastic bag legislation. This was brought up earlier this year, and we did have the public comment period about it, and we got a lot of interesting comments. And we had, if you'll remember at a committee meeting earlier, we had some industry people here who talked about wanting to make sure that anything that we do relates to both plastic and paper single-use bags. And then there was the task force. The state task force was put together by Governor Cuomo. And I did talk, I emailed with Steve Aquario recently, I think probably 2 weeks ago, to get an update from him on because he's on the task force, to get an update on what's happening. And basically the task force is still meeting. They are expecting to do a report, but it didn't sound to me like anything was going to come out of it this year. And what he did say to me is that he's continuing to advocate for the ability for local municipalities like ourselves at the county level to be able to do whatever they want, go whichever way they want, because New York City passed their local law and then the state legislature stepped in. So if nothing else, he's advocating for local rule to apply. So in front of you is an amended proposal. We had something similar to this earlier in the year, and I know some of the concerns were that do we have a fee or do we have a ban? Yeah. And I think from the public comments, people really wanted to be able to have a choice about using bags if they wanted to. So this proposed legislation is crafted to not be a ban. It would be a fee, and it would not be the original fee that we had proposed of 10 cents per bag. It's only 5 cents per bag. This is taken almost directly from Suffolk County, which passed theirs just 2 months ago in September. So I think it's a really good model for us to take a look at. And theirs is going to be effective in January, but obviously we wouldn't have time to do that. So this is crafted to not start until August, but that's always something that we could push back if we felt like retailers needed more time to deal with something like this. Any thoughts from the committee? Yes, Supervisor Strout.
Well, the one resolution that was before the board, several months ago, was so basic. It basically just said that this board supports the state's task force into seeking, urging options that would reduce single-use grocery bags. That was it. There was no, fee per bag use, there was no ban, there was none of that, and it did not pass. I mean, you can't get more benign than the resolution that we tried to get the Board of Supervisors to support. So, as you know, I do support reusable bags.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, if you want to get this county support, why don't we start again with that resolution? That was a very benign resolution, and I don't think lost by many votes. Why don't we start there, that urges the state task force to do something, and that we support them doing something in terms of reducing single-use grocery bags.
Well, John, I think part of the problem with that last legislation is it was too open-ended. People didn't know exactly what we were supporting. And on the other hand, a resolution to ask the state task force again to do something, in my mind, is not going to be effective if they're already meeting and they're, kind of spinning their wheels at this point. It's almost December.
Well, what I heard from the supervisors is they didn't like the idea of banning. They didn't like the idea of us telling them what to do. They didn't really see, there's so much plastic in the world. What's the use of these bags doing to the environment? I mean, so maybe there's an educational component that needs to be done before we urge anything.
Supervisor Dickinson?
I agree with John. I said before, I don't know why we're trying to charge per bag. I think you just need to ban them. Once you start charging, you got an issue of money. Who's taking the money? Where's it going? And then you have all the bookwork. So they come in and audit you and say, geez, you must have used 10,000 bags. You don't have 10,000 nickels to go with it. I agree totally with John. Bags are a definite problem for the environment. In my private practice, I've been all over the county in the most remote areas. There's always, I don't care where you're at, there's always a plastic bag's gotten there somehow. It's stuck up in a tree or whatever. But we just go back and express our interest in banning their use that we had in the original resolution.
Anybody else on the committee?
That's where it's all going. We can be first, second, or third, but it's ultimately where the world is going and where communities are going. We may be 2, 3, 4 years away from it, but so the question is, do we do it now? Do we wait and be in the middle of the pack, so to speak? But it's coming. It's going to be a ban. And don't have a problem with it. I would vote to ban it.
I mean, we have deteriorated plastic in the ocean. It's unfathomable because of the currents. They've aggregated in certain areas, and it's unfathomable. The amount of
Supervisor
plastic.
Simpson, did you?
I didn't have the hand up.
I know.
You have a thought.
I thought you
would
did.
much rather support a ban than I would a fee that is just not, solve the problem. If we agree to ban them. If not, don't do anything. Don't charge a fee. I don't think that's productive at all.
Supervisor Molino, did you want to add anything? Okay, Supervisor McDonald?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just want to echo the Supervisor Straw. I think a fee is, I don't think that's the way to go. I think that's gonna create that money in water quite a bit and complicate the whole process of what we're trying to do. And but I do think that I think it would be worthy to explore that educational component because it really is a big shift in behavior, habits of people, and just their routine. And I think the educational component is important because if you can educate people to make that shift to carrying their bags, reusable bags, and then come in a car, issues solved. So I think that's something to really try to nail down in this resolution.
Mr. Weil?
Yes, thank you. I just have a comment about the paper bags, and I do this primarily because it's a small business my wife and I both own. Many of the people that come and we do business with do carry their own bags, but some don't. So that would require us as a retailer to do what? Hold in our inventory 25-cent bags, 50-cent bags, or something like that we can charge people for. I'm wondering if it might be possible to just do a phase-in on paper, say a year later, because plastic is probably the biggest problem. And it will drive, I believe, people's responses and expectations in terms of what they do at the store. And then paperwork just eventually phased out.
Thank you.
Just
Supervisor
one
Garrity?
question. After the discussion you had, I don't think I was there for the meeting. Did you go back to any of the retailers and see if it showed any reduction in the amount of plastic bags like Price Chopper or Hannaford or any of those stores where you after the initial discussion? I know I carry a bag with me now. I haven't used it much, but I did put one in the car. So if I go to the store, I could go in and do it without. I was just wondering if you got any feedback from any of the merchants.
Since the last time we had a public comment?
The public comment.
I have not done that, but I know that they did express that the fee is not as effective as a ban, obviously. That a fee, people would still just be using them. So if we think there's a problem, banning would be more effective. Yes, Supervisor McDevitt.
The best example of a store in our community where most people use paper bags, I'm not paper bags, cloth bags, is Aldi's, a German-based organization. You can buy bags in that store. 95% of the people that shop there bring cloth bags, okay? Or they put it into a cart, wheel it out to their car, and kind of position their groceries. So you can offer the option of and let the retailer control the charging of whatever, but the overwhelming majority of people, they're changing as we speak. Okay, people are maybe a little more creative and smarter than sometimes we give them credit for. So the marketplace right before us is changing, and it's changing at this one store.
But I know that the retailers also said it would be, if we're going to do something, it would be nice to do it across the board so that, it's not just Aldi's or Price Chopper kind of sticking their neck out. Yeah, Supervisor Simpson.
One of my first jobs was working at Price Chopper packing bags, paper bags.
Come a long way.
What's wrong with paper bags?
They still do it.
I mean, we're in a...
The industry said we
supported
should...
by paper industry. We've got a lumbering business, forest management going on all around us in the Adirondacks. But this includes paper carryout bags.
Yeah,
So I don't understand that.
Mr. Whitehead?
And I love paper bags.
Thank you. I would be definitely in favor of a ban. I don't think nickel's going to discourage anybody to rethink the issue. And I think this is really what you need to do, is have people actually think about what it is they're doing. And throw a reusable bag in the trunk is something to learn the first time they have to walk back out to go ahead and get it. So I really think that's the way. And in regards to all these in Germany and such, absolutely, Europe has had, wouldn't think about things like this for a very long time. We're just behind the times.
Okay, so I'm hearing mostly people are in support of a ban. So I will look at recrafting this and maybe a phase-in, so it would deal with a ban of plastic first and a phase-in ban on single-use paper bags. That's what we're trying to get at, not paper bags with handles. That's the difference in the definition. If it has handles, it's determined to be reusable.
So the brown paper bags
Yes.
would be phased out. The good paper bags?
The kind you used to
The ones
cover
they
your,
used to carry like this?
with in school.
Yeah, I mean, those things are great bags. Why would we ban those?
Well, we can look at that. There might be a weightness, a thickness, like with the paper. There is a thickness criteria.
I don't understand that at all.
You look at leaves,
There's nothing more biodegradable than paper bags.
that's what I was going to
You
say.
look, you can get it home.
Hold on. The argument is that it also uses energy to create the paper bags, and it costs effort to transport them here. We're not buying all of our paper bags from the Adirondacks.
I'm sorry, I got to disagree with you.
Yeah,
Paper bag is a
you.
paper bag,
Yeah.
and the town of Queensbury, I don't know if Lake George does it, if Horicon could do it, we'd pick up leaves. But
If you make it too complicated, you're not going to get anything from it.
I hear what you're saying. Can I take comment from Supervisor Thomas, please?
Well, the retailers and stores are looking at all these bags, so why are we punishing the
Yeah.
The stores should change their program.
Supervisor Dickinson?
I go to a shop and I buy something, and they give me these plastic bags, what is it? I didn't ask for plastic bags, that's what they give.
I'd like to make a motion that you work on a resolution to ban plastic bags, period.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Yes, Supervisor Beatty?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Simpson and Mr. Dickinson. I think paper bags, and one of the reasons why they went to plastic, by the way, because I've been in that part of the business, it's a cost factor. Plastic bags are much less expensive than paper bags, and that's why all these or anybody else has gone to plastic bags. But I'm not for plastic bags, but I don't see a problem with the paper bags. They are biodegradable. Mr. Dickinson said, you're lucky if you get them home before they break and totally disintegrate. So I would be totally in support of having paper bags as an option for retailers.
Well, we have a motion on the floor to ban plastic bags, nothing to do with paper. And there was a second. Any more discussion on that specific motion?
Okay.
All right. John? Supervisor Strauss?
Are we banning the use of plastic bags just to grocery stores or in every context of the world? I mean,
You know we're going for the big
How
apple.
you can single out one from the other.
Right now, retailers,
some have, grocery stores have been the target because there's other stores with plastic bags left to interpretation. We have to use a plastic bag in manufacturing this item. So I think you're opening up a world of, well, what ifs. But if you keep it to grocery stores, I think it keeps it simple.
In the implementing.
Supervisor Dickinson, do you want to amend your resolution to say grocery stores are just, right now there's a definition of a covered store in the language that we provided today, that I provided to you today. It is very broad.
But you were going to rewrite something and resubmit it.
Well, right.
That's what we're working on. We're trying to give us some direction.
Something else.
I'm going to stick to doing away with plastic bags. I'm
Okay.
not quite sure what John's talking about.
Well, what I could do is, if we if this motion passes, it could bring something back to the next committee meeting.
My doggy bags. The
Just
plastic.
one observation,
I mean, there are other contexts.
Supervisor
where
McDevitt.
Any plastic bags is going to get into areas where you don't foresee, you didn't mean to get it into.
Let Claudia take that under consideration.
We'll make it one last...
Guys, we only have one more minute.
One last
Supervisor
observation.
McDevitt.
Rip through.
I would support the grocery stores. I mean, the implications for retail in our environment. I mean, you don't have to go very far out this door to get to the $1 Million Mile, and the implications on a retailer, someone that's selling clothing, and taking that component, which enables you to put your new pants and shirt in the bag, and eliminating that immediately. Ooh, we got a hornet's nest now.
Well, the proposal is to ban plastic bags. Doesn't mean
And I think
we're
that-
gonna do it tomorrow.
Hold on, guys, and I think that we need to bring it back to committee before we go back to the board anyway. So can I'm going to call the vote on this motion that we craft new legislation banning rather than the fee, and only applying to plastic. And that we would bring it back to the next environmental concerns meeting. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn, please? Sorry, Supervisor Strauss?
While we're on the environment thing, this discussion's got to happen sooner or later. It's already happening as we look at regional biosolids treatment. That discarded food has got to be taken out of the waste stream and put into the recycling stream. So that's a conversation I think we need to have as we go forward.
All right, motion to adjourn, please? Yes, Supervisor Strauss, Dickinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. Okay.